Hey YouTube, Kira Twig here, bringing you all my Spright Frogs Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile for post Power of the Elements. With the latest Power of the Elements deck, I would say this is the most broken deck that we got out of that set. The Spright deck definitely does have a lot of potential to support a bunch of different level and Link 2 and Rank 2 decks. I may even try an Evil Twin form of the deck later in the future. But for now, I wanted to focus on what I would say is one of the more meta-relevant decks, being the Spright Frog deck, using the Frog engine along with the many different Spright monsters. It really is a powerful one, and the one I'm currently using at locals. It also is pretty pricey, so I may think of even some budget options for the Spright deck in the future as well. But for now, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the Spright monsters, 3 Spright Blue is definitely needed, but I only have 2 at the moment, sadly. So I'm just substituting one of my hand traps, which is DD Crow, for the 3rd spot. For the Spright Blues, if you control a level or rank 2 monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. This monster effect is shared by all the different Spright monsters, and you can only special summon Spright Blue once per turn this way. And if it's special summoned, you can add 1 Spright monster from your deck to your hand, except for Spright Blue, and you can only use this effect once per turn. So if you can successfully activate your Spright monster's effects and not get hand trapped, this can be a +2 on its own, because you can use Spright Blue to search out your next Spright monster, which is Spright Jet. And then when you special summon out Spright Jet with the same monster effect as Spright Blue, you can add a Spright spell or trap from your deck to your hand. So then being able to then add your go-to spell, which is your Spright starter, to then have another special summon on the field. It's very, very powerful. And it's also the main combo to set off all your different plays in the deck, because then you can use those different monsters you summoned out to either go into your Gigantic Spright or even your Spright Elf, depending on the combo you want to go for. And for some of the lower numbers for these Spright monsters, I also run 2 Spright Red and 1 Spright Carrot. They don't have search power, but they're more, effect negations with your Spright Carrot. Being able to stop a spell or trap effect, that being a quick effect, attribute another level or rank 2 monster to negate it. And then Spright Red being able to stop a monster effect for the negation of another tribute on the field. They're both special summons, but some of my favorites is just to normal summon out Red or Carrot. And then if I have Blue or Jet in hand, special summon them out on the field, because then they'll be the searchers I can use for many of the other plays. For the Frog engine, I am running 3 Swap Frog, and then 1 Ronin Totem and 1 Dupe Frog. The Ronin Totem is sent most of the times off of the Swap Frog when it's summoned out, being able to send a lower level 2 or lower water monster. Sending the Ronin Totem, setting up the play by then using the Swap Frog for either a Link play or Xyz material, and then using the Dupe Frog for when I go into my Totally Awesome, and then special summon it during the next standby phase. For more of the level 2 engine, I also run the 3 Deep Sea Diva. When it's normal summon, you can special summon 1 level 3 or lower Sea Serpent from your deck. So you normal summon out the Deep Sea Diva, special summon another one, and then from there you either have your play for the Gigantic Spright or even the Link to Spright Elf if you already have some of the cards set up in the graveyard or some other Spright monsters in your hand. And the hand trap lineup is pretty big for the deck. I run 3 Ash Blossom and Joy Spring, along with 2 Effect Veiler for the monster effect negation, and also just the stopping of search power that my opponent may have for their own play. And I also run the 2 additional DD Crow. I know I have the 1 for the placeholder for the 1 Spright Blue, but I do really like this card. It stops so many other plays in a lot of different decks. Even going up against the mirror match, it can stop Ronin Totem, because they have to banish the other frog for cost, and then you can just banish the Ronin Totem. And then also 2 Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit for stopping plenty of other cards that activate their effects on the field also. With the final spot for the hand trap lineup being 3 Psyframe Gear Gamma and the 1 Psyframe Driver. I really do like Gamma in the deck because along with its own monster effect negation, if you use 2 of the monsters, you have the additional Gammas in your deck, which can be special summoned for level 2 options. Also for the fact that it is a level 2 tuner, you can special summon it onto the field with cards like Crystron, Halqifibrax, giving you another level 2 if you had already gone through the majority of your Deep Sea Diva engine also. that is it for the monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. The other card I am still missing. Hopefully by the time that this video is uploaded, I have the number of Spright starters that I want to run in the deck. I do have Crossout Designator as another spot for this card. Just with all the different hand trap options I'm running, if I want my play to be successful, this one definitely does come up in handy. And for what I've been running with this deck, having one Spright starter isn't that bad at all, for the fact that you can just easily search this card, whether you have your blue, searching out your Jet, summoning Jet, and then you have your searcher from there, because this card is just so readily searchable in the deck. For some of the other one-ofs in the deck, I run one Call by the Grave, just once again stopping any of my opponent's hand traps, and the one Spright Smashers. This is an answer card, so you can get over some of your opponent's cards. You banish one Springin, Therion, or Spright card from your hand and or graveyard, activate one of these effects, and the only one you really want to activate with this deck, or that you can activate, is you banish one level or rank or link 2 monster you control and one card your opponent controls. So if there's one pesky card in your opponent's field, Spright Smashers can easily get over it. And once again, it's another searcher that you can use and search off of Spright Jet. I also run 2 Triple Tactics Talent. Now this can be swapped back and forth if you have the spots for the Spright starter and you don't want to take out the Crossout Designators. You can always have the other spot be with Spright starter and then remove the 2 Triple Tactics Talents. It comes in handy with all the different card effects that your opponent may try to use, either taking their own monster for the mirror match or even going up against the draw power, because then you could potentially draw into more of the special summonable engine in the deck to get out onto the field. With the last cards in the main deck being 3 Infinite Impermanence, just along with Ash Blossom and Effect Veiler and all the other hand traps, a great way to stop your opponent's plays. You really just need the one level 2, whether it's blue or even Spright Jet, along with the other level 2 monster you control. So as long as the other majority in your hand are hand traps, you can shut down a good number of cards that your opponent may try to use against you. That's it for the main deck. We'll now move on to the extra deck for the Xyz monsters, and a lot of the Spright extra decks will look pretty similar for the Frog build. I would say there's just a short lineup of cards you want to run, but definitely 2 Gigantic Spright. It is a monster that just needs 2 level 2 monsters, so whatever level 2 monsters you use to summon it out, it just has your answer then for the detach to special summon one of your other level 2 monsters from your deck, just being able to detach for this card to Xyz material. And you can also use a Link 2 monster as Xyz material. Its original attack becomes double if you use a Fusion Synchro or Xyz play, and also then special summoning one level 2 monster from your deck. So if you already use the Spright engine, you can even use Spright Gigantic to summon out Swap Frog onto the field, sending another one to the graveyard, using the 2 for a Link 2 play, giving you another Swap Frog in the graveyard to summon the Ronin Totem back onto the field if necessary. For the other rank 2 monsters, I also run one Totally Awesome. This is definitely a powerhouse for the negations. I feel they may even hit it sometime before the next list because of this deck alone. Cat Shark can be the game-winning play with Gigantic Spright doubling its attack, and then using Cat Shark again to get this card to enormous numbers. I run one Onimaru Soul Weeper for another banish option to target a monster your opponent controls and banish it until your opponent's end phase to get over that monster. And then additionally, I also run the one Sky Cavalry Centaria, one Downward Magician, and the one Divine Arsenal Zeus for this package play as another way just to overlay into this card to wipe out your opponent's field. For the Link monsters, I run 2 of the Spright Elf, needing 2 monsters, including a level or rank 2 Link monster. So even if you do get the Gamma play, another reason why I like this card in the deck, special summoning it during your own turn before it will be banished. If you get out Psyframe Driver in this card, if your opponent tries to activate a monster effect while you still control no monsters, you can summon out these 2 cards and then use these 2 monsters as your play for the Link 2 of Spright Elf, since you just need 2 monsters, including a level or rank 2 or Link 2 monster, and that is filled by the Psyframe Gamma spots. And being more of a special summon play, if your opponent controls a monster, it can be a rank 2 play. Just a quick play way to get more and more monsters back onto the field for you as a resource. With the rest of the Link monsters being one Nightmare Phoenix, one Crystron Halqifibrax. The IP Masquerena, very scary. You may be locked into some Link 2 plays, but if you can summon out this and then have the option for Nightmare Unicorn during your opponent's turn, it can really take away from what they may want to summon out. And lastly, the one Underworld Goddess from the Cursed World. This can be a a good variety of other cards in the deck. If you wanted to stick to more of the Link 2 plays, you can take this card out for like a Nightmare Griffin, or even if you wanted to go for an Appaloosa play, something more of a powerhouse, but I like it for the option of being able to use it as a resource against your opponent. If you don't have this card, I do believe it will be reprinted in the Megatin, so you can always just wait until then to get a copy of this card if it's a bit too pricey. But if you are building sprites, there are some other pricey cards that are definitely more expensive than just the Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. As for some of the go-to plays in the deck for the setup, Deep Sea Diva or even the Frog Engine can be a big start to any of the plays you may want to use in the deck. If you summon out Deep Sea Diva and your opponent doesn't hand trap you, you can then use the effect to summon out the second Deep Sea Diva onto the field, and then you're able to overlay the two together, going into your Xyz monster of choice, which is the Gigantic Spright, a good majority of the time, activating the effect, detaching the one afterwards, so you can then special summon out your Spright Blue. If your opponent hasn't, hand trap the Spright at this point, I really don't know why they would be waiting for blue, because if they let you get blue out, you still have a play here to go into. They want to stop this initial search. So then if you get out blue, you can activate blue to search out an additional monster. You can summon out your Spright Jet. With that, special summoning out Jet gives you the spell search. So then you'll add Spright Starter to hand. This will be one additional summon, which depending on what play you may want to go through from there, you can activate Starter, giving you the summon if you want to stop either monster or spell effects, either one of these monsters on the field. And then from there you have your additional go to play for the Link 2 summon to then summon out your Spright Elf onto the field. And then from there as well, you can go into the next monster of choice for another setup on the field. IP Masquerena, you can even go into Halqifibrax for another tuner play. But with this, you then have the special summon option of your Spright Elf to summon a level 2 back onto the field, using IP and that monster to summon out your Nightmare Unicorn on the field, which then, as long as you have another card in your hand for the discard, you can then spin back an opponent's card during their own turn. Another play that you can use, and this one goes more on the fact if you open up like the Frog Engine, or even if you already start off with the Spright Engine. Let's say you have these two cards in your hand. If you normal summon out Spright Red, special summoning out Spright Blue, and then let's say your opponent goes for more of the hand trap option against the blue, you can at least still overlay the two, and since you already went into your Spright play, you can go into Gigantic Spright using its own play for the detach, and then with that you have a special summon of your Swap Frog from the deck instead, activating the Swap Frog effect to then give you the additional send to your graveyard, which with this play, you will want to send the Ronin Totem for the discard play, setting that card up in your graveyard. And then from there, you have the additional summon going into the Link 2 play with your Gigantic Spright to get out Spright Elf again, activating Spright Elf's quick effect to summon out the Swap Frog back onto the field, activating Swap Frog again to send another Swap Frog from your deck to the graveyard, with that send being the setup for the other Swap Frog that you wanted set up in your graveyard. Because of that play, you'll send one more, and with that you have the banish for your Ronin Totem, banishing the Swap Frog to summon down to the field, and then from there you have the overlay to go into your Totally Awesome. And then from there, you have another special summon on your opponent's turn with Spright Elf, but also during the standby phase, you can use Totally Awesome to special summon out the Dupe Frog onto the field as a way to make it so your opponent has to attack into this card, protecting your Spright Elf on the field, and still having the negation of your Totally Awesome for that tribute to be able to get you another Swap Frog off the search, and also a way if your opponent controls a monster with Spright Elf to summon the Toad back onto the field during the following play if you hadn't activated it already. Those are just some of the plays for the deck. It's really a pretty broken meta deck that I definitely do see it being hit on the following ban list. We'll just have to see how much we can enjoy this deck at its full power. Until then, who knows, even by the time this video is uploaded, we may have some hints as to what a ban list could be for it. But I hope you all enjoyed the deck profile. And like I said, I definitely do want to try some other versions of the deck. I will definitely want to mix it in with Evil Twins because I really do love that deck as well. And this deck can only make that deck stronger, especially. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.